Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be making some DIY home decor. Let's get started. We are going to be using lots of Dollar Tree items in today's video, but starting off, we're going to be using this piece that I got from the Dollar General for only $1. I thought this little bird was going to be a really fun piece to DIY with, so I'm going to start off by using my heat gun to help me get the label off. It just makes it a little bit easier. And then I'm going to pry off the flower from the front. Now, this was in with like a nail, and so when I pulled off the flower, there was a piece sticking up. So I just pounded that in with my hammer so that it wouldn't be, protruding at all. And then I decided I wanted to take the paper off. You could sand it, or you could just try painting over it or put paper over it. But for me, I wanted to get a clean slate. So I'm dampening it with some water and then a paper towel, moistening that really good, and then just letting that sit, and then you just scrape it off and repeat as needed. I've shared that many times, so we're going to skip over that. I'm going to paint this bird with a little textured paint, so I'm taking some Waverly chalk paint in the color white and some baking soda and mixing that together with my chippy brush. You can make this as thick as you want or as thin as you want, just based on the texture that you are going for. And then the chippy brush, using the chippy brush, I should say, we're just going to stipple that across the bird. We're going to do the front and the back with this. Now, I've heard, I know some friends that use salt wash, which is a paint additive. It's actually designed for this, and that gives a little bit of a stiffer texture. I find that the baking soda works fine for me, but I will say that I wanted to make sure to not go on too thick, because as I stood this up to dry, because I did both sides at the same time, it kind of wanted to drop a little bit, so I kind of just kept stippling that a couple times as it dried. So I hope that's making sense, but you could also just do one side at a time. All right, so we're gonna let that completely dry, and then I'm gonna take these paint inlays, and I got some tips about the paint inlays from the last, I think it was the last video or a recent video, and that is to trim as close to the design as possible so that you don't have any outline from the paper. I don't know that this would have been a problem on this one because we're going to use this paint inlay on the textured paint, but I went ahead and kind of fussy cutted this and did the best I could. And then I'm just spraying that with my spray bottle. Then I'm going to go over where I'm going to put the paint inlays with some paint. No baking soda here, just a little bit of paint to lay the paint inlays in there. Now, I was expecting it to not give maybe as good of coverage because of the textured, but I wanted it to look rustic anyway, and you're going to see we're going to kind of make it look that way even more. But the paint inlay did work really good even on the textured surface. Dabbing that with my paper towel to press it in. We'll do that in a couple spots, and then once that dries, dampening it once again with with water and a paper towel, and then peeling off our inlays. And I'm going to repeat that a couple times in different places on this bird. And I probably could have gotten it to transfer better if I'd pressed in more, but I really just wanted this to be kind of rough, roughly in there, because I wanted it to be rustic. So we're going to do that in a couple different places, and you do that however you would want to do. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up. That helps me out a ton. It lets me know that you're enjoying my video, but it also lets YouTube know that you're enjoying my video. And when they know that you enjoy my video, it makes them more likely to share my video with others. So it's very important in the YouTube algorithm. All right, so heading back to our project, we're done with the paint inlays. I let that all dry completely and fully, and now I'm going in with a stencil brush and a very, very little antique wax, and we're going to go over the edges. And I'm going over pretty much the whole thing, but I'm just building on the, I didn't want it to go too heavy at first. On the back side, I'm going to go across the outside and the beak, because where I'm going to display this, you may see it from the back side. And then from the front, I just kind of went all over. You'll see that in just a second. And then once everything was fully dry, I'm sealing this in with a good coat of Mod Podge. I wanted to seal in the paint inlay, I wanted to seal in the antique wax, and I wanted to seal in that textured paint that we had. That'll just give a nice firm outer coat or top coat and keep everything sitting pretty. And this one was so fun. I love how this came out. I made it look a little bit more rustic and dirty. I love both sides. I don't know if there's a favorite here. I like them both, but let me know what you guys think about this one. For this next one, I'm taking a book, and I did paint it white. I don't know that that was necessary, but you can buy a book at the Dollar Tree or use one that you have that maybe you don't want to read. We're not ruining the book, we're just covering it up. So obviously if you like the cover, you don't want to do this, but we're going to use some peel and stick wallpaper from Dollar Tree. Now, I'm also using some Mod Podge here, and that is because I used the paint that I left over from another project, so it was a textured paint, and I wasn't sure how well it would stick, and I just wanted to make sure it stuck really good. I feel like the peel and stick wallpaper should be sticky enough to not need to do that, but you also may not even need to have painted this book at all and just covered the book cover, but this is how I chose to do it. And we're going to just line this up and pressing that in, and then I'm going to make sure to get the spine of the book as well, and we're just covering this book. Now I've often, and I will show you it in a minute, displayed with some other books. You can also just use like brown craft paper, and I've done that on many books, and you don't touch really the cover at all because you can just kind of tape it like back in the day when we used to wrap books in school. I wanted to do this one with some pattern and texture, so thrift store, Dollar Tree, wherever you can find a book that maybe you don't care so much about the cover. But the way I'm doing this, you can still read the book if you so choose. And we're just going to press it on. The nice thing with the Mod Podge, and I don't know if this would have happened if I didn't use it, was I was able to peel the wallpaper up and realign it and reposition it. So anyways, on the front and the back, I decided to fold it over into the cover, and then one end I just butted up against the edge of the wallpaper, and then the top part or the other end I just had to trim that down. To age this book a little bit and also cover up any edges of where the wallpaper ended that you might be able to see some white, I went over with some antique wax along the edges of this, and I just enjoy the look of that. Here's the book by itself, and then I have it layered with another book, but I will show this to you in a display at the end. For this next project, we are going to be creating a little decor piece. I don't really know what to call it except for that, but I'm going to start off with some paper here. I am tearing the edges. You can moisten the edges when tearing paper with like a paintbrush and water, and that gives you a more rough torn look instead of a crisp line of like cutting it. And I'm using, it's going to look like it's scripture. It is pieces from scripture, but this is not torn out of a Bible. But you can print things off. You can use some scrapbook paper. You could use sheet music. You could use pages from a book that you've thrifted or from the Dollar Tree, whatever you want. We're going to do a layered piece. I don't know if you know a proper way to maybe describe this once you see the finished product. Maybe you can help me out. I did find something online, and it was like decorative blocks, but I don't really know what else to say about that. So I'm putting a coat of white paint on the back of the paper to try to disguise the writing from the other side. It kind of worked. And then we're going to Mod Podge this onto a wooden block that I painted white from the Dollar Tree. These are those wooden blocks from the Dollar Tree. And I'm going to cut up or tear up various pieces and strips of paper, and we're going to Mod Podge this onto the different sides of the block. I'm just doing the 4 sides. Some are going to be a full page and some will just be partial, and then we're going to kind of build off of this from there. This is going to be a very layered piece, and I had a lot of fun with this. It's kind of different than my normal projects, but I had a lot of fun with it. If you're new to my channel and enjoy budget-friendly DIYs, please consider subscribing to my channel. It is free to you, and it helps me out, and it also makes sure that you will see my videos when I post them pop up in your subscription feed. So once I have this block all done and everything is dry, just showing you kind of how it looks, how I did them all a little bit different, we're going to add on some layering here. So I have this rub-on transfer, and we're going to cut up pieces of this mainly for one side. I think I do use a couple pieces on another side, but I wanted to go for a layered, textured look. Again, I don't know what to properly call this, but it is vintage inspired, and it was a lot of fun. So we're going to cut out some pieces of transfer that I think will work good on this. Some of the things we're going to do will cover up the letters a little bit, and then other places I try to make it so that it's not covering up the letters. And then we're just going to transfer these on by taking off the backing, placing it down, rubbing it with a tool, popsicle stick, finger, whatever. And then once that is transferred, you will lift up the top sheet. I use this little tool. I think it's a dotting tool from Dollar Tree, I think is what it's called. And this worked really, really good because in some of the little places of the transfer, I was able to really press down and it worked awesome. So I'm going to keep that in mind for the future. I pulled out my stamps that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. I've not had luck finding them all at once. These had been picked up over time, but they've got some really pretty ones. And so I'm going through to find some that I'm going to stamp over some of the pages as well. So I just wanted to do something a little different on each one. And the ink that I'm using is from the Dollar Tree. It is not amazing. I feel like it's not that dark, but for most of the projects I use, I don't really want it to be that dark. And I wanted it to not be a crisp, clean stamp because I wanted you to be able to read the letters, like the words behind it a little bit. But I did do I did try this out on a scrap piece of paper just to make sure. And then I went ahead and stamped a couple stamps on this block on a couple different sides. And in between, or right afterwards, I should say, just make sure you clean it with a baby wipe or a wet paper towel. Actually, I cleaned up around the stamp with a wet paper towel before I stamp because sometimes when you're using the ink pad, you get ink on, the surrounding areas. But lots of different options for this. I'm going to show you one more thing I'm doing on another side of the stamp, or on the other side of the block, just to give you another idea of things that you could do to make something similar. I wanted to make this whole block blend together and not look like I just stamped things and layered things. I wanted it to look like it had been this way for a long time. So I'm taking my ink pad and I'm going around the edges and the corners, plus kind of some of the corners, and just dabbing it in different places. Like I said, this ink pad doesn't seem to be super saturated, so I wasn't really worried about any like big blotches coming off. But I just did this in various places. I just kind of kept looking at it and adding to it. And then I'm going to use my heat gun and dry that really well. And then I'm going to go in with some antique wax and a stencil brush and lightly put that on in different places as well. Just to once again kind of make it look a little bit older and like everything had just been together for so long. I wanted to seal this in with Mod Podge, and on this first spot, you'll see it maybe later, the bird, it wasn't on there too dark to begin with, but it kind of smudged, and it all kind of did, which again, I was going for the older look, so it was fine, but I let this dry for a while, so I'm not sure if it was just the surface that the ink was on that happened. I don't know, but when you go for old rustic vintage look, all that stuff doesn't really matter. So we're going to Mod Podge across this and seal everything in. And then on this side, I wanted to add a little strip of this lace ribbon from Dollar Tree. I just thought it just added a very muted addition, but still like another texture. And I'm just going to press that into the Mod Podge, and then I am going to go in with a pretty thick coat of Mod Podge on top, being careful to not move it all around here. If you find it moving, then make sure you let the under layer of Mod Podge dry first. And this is how this little block came out. Let me know what you guys think about it. If you have something I should be calling it, I don't really know. But it was really fun, and I think it's a really sweet piece to kind of add into a vignette, which is what we are going to be creating at the end of this video. We're going to put it all together to make a vignette. This last one is super simple. I have this jar. I actually picked it up on sale or on clearance from Hobby Lobby, but the little burlap piece just kind of slid right off of it. But save your jars from drinks or grocery items. Maybe you can find it at the some various vases and jars at the Dollar Tree, not just in the decorative section, look in the food section as well, or something from the thrift store. And we're just gonna zhuzh it up a little bit. I'm adding that lace ribbon from the Dollar Tree across the top. I really just hot glued in the beginning and the end. I wanted it to look nice because you may see it from the back at some point as well. So just a little bit of hot glue, but I pulled it nice and tight so it wouldn't slide down. And then I pulled what I thought was actually a piece of twine out of my scrap bag, but it feels more like ropey from something I pulled off of something. Who knows? We're just going to wrap that around a couple times at the top. I am going to use a tiny dab of hot glue and then tie that in a knot just to keep that from possibly sliding down at the neck of the bottle. And that is it. That is all I'm doing for this one. Put in a little sprig that I picked up at Hobby Lobby for like 99 cents. And that is all I'm doing for this one. That is it for today's video. If you liked it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Say hello down in the comments, even if it's just leaving me an emoji to let me know you're here. And of course, if you are new to my channel, please make sure you hit that subscribe button before you leave so you don't miss out on my future videos. I post weekly, budget-friendly DIY videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you in the next one.